welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming a top 5 favorite houseplants in my collection at the moment video. I've never done one of these on my channel before, so if you guys like it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you want to see more of these in the future, kind of like a monthly favorites, but also just whenever I feel like it, because that's how we operate here on this channel. I kind of just woke up from a nap. I'm feeling a little under the weather. I think I have the flu. If I seem a little bit more low energy than normal, that is why. It is the day after Thanksgiving and I am just hanging out at home. Started a knitting project yesterday that I am excited to get back to working on, but I just couldn't resist showing you guys some of my favorite houseplants. I've been watering them after I woke up from my nap and I just wanted to talk a little bit. It seems like some pretty good lighting and a perfect opportunity to share this video with you. So I have 4 of the plants right here, and then one of them is hanging up, so I'll have to take you to it. But let's just go ahead and dive right in. I tried to select houseplants from different geniuses, not just Hoyas, because you guys know I love Hoyas and I could talk about them all day. But I wanted to share with you some of my other houseplants that I have that I haven't really talked about much before. So to start off, this is the reason I wanted to make the video in the first place, because I wanted to talk about my Calathea Orbifolia, which I think has been reclassified as something different. If I think about it, I'll put the name on the screen. I definitely thought I was gonna kill this little girl, but the second I brought it home, because I do not have a good track record with prayer plants. Now, again, this isn't technically a Calathea anymore, but we are gonna call it that because that's what I know. And I was so wrong. This is like the easiest prayer plant that I've ever had in my collection. I have brought home so many Marantas because I just love them so much, and they immediately just lose all of their leaves. So definitely prayer plants are not happy in my home. Maybe it's the low humidity, which I don't think is the problem, because my micans, which hangs in my window really closely to this plant, has the longest aerial roots I've ever seen on a micans, and it's insane. Like, the aerial roots are longer than some of the vines. But we recently got this new leaf, like it literally just unfurled, and as I was pulling out the plant to show you guys, I saw another little leaf right here coming out. So it seems to be pretty happy. I kind of just try to leave it alone. As you can see, there are definitely brown tips on the edges of it, which does not bother me one single bit. This is definitely one of the older leaves that had some browning when I got it, so it's really not that bad at the browning. I don't have a humidifier or anything, and my furnace does blow directly into this room where the Orbifolia is, so it is a little bit more dry in this room, especially when I shut the door, but it's also one of the most humid rooms when it is humid. So there's that. I definitely should dust the leaves a little bit more often. I used to water this by taking like the bits that were left in my water bottle, and I would just dump it in to the plant, and I think it really liked that. And then recently I kind of just been like neglecting it a little bit more than I probably should, but it seems really happy considering it just gave me this beautiful leaf, and there's one on the way already. It kind of took a little bitty break for like a couple of months and didn't do anything, but now it seems to be back in action. I don't know if it's because where it sits on my plant shelf. I'll try to insert some B-roll of it as well so you guys can see kind of the conditions that it gets. I think it's happier with the lighting this time of year better than in the heart of summer. So this is the last leaf that it gave me before it stopped growing for a little bit, which has a little bit of weird rippling damage, probably from unfurling. I checked it immensely for pest and didn't find a single thing on it. So I definitely don't think it's pest related. I do just think that it maybe wasn't getting watered enough when it was trying to unfurl. So that's on me. But overall, it does exactly what I want this plant to do. I got it from Home Depot for $20, $29.99 actually, so $30 back in the summer, like early summer. So I've had it for a little bit of time and I really enjoy it. It came in this basket, which is just beautiful, and I have no plans to touch it and irritate it anytime soon. In fact, this is the only time I've ever taken it off that plant shelf, so I can't wait to put it back. So it remains happy and will continue to put out new growth. I really like this size of leaf. I know the leaves on these Orbifolias can get huge, but ideally I would like them to stay more the size that they are, because I don't really have a place for a giant Orbifolia, if I'm being completely honest. A giant plant in general. I have my Monstera, which is huge, and I love it, but like it's the biggest plant that's allowed in this house because it's a very small house. So that is the first plant that I'm loving right now. Again, no particular order, but this is the reason I wanted to make the video, so maybe this is just number one in general. I highly recommend, if you're into prayer plants but you have a hard time keeping them alive, give it a go for an Orbifolia, because like I said, I'm awful at the prayer plants, but this one seems to be super easy to care for and just likes medium light. Actually, it's more just ambient light. This thing just gets ambient light. There's no direct light, except maybe in the late summer, early spring, it gets a little bit of direct rays on it, but nothing major, and it would be like late afternoon, so it's nothing harsh. So I do recommend getting you one of these guys. It's just so pretty. I love it. I know there's like a darker form version of it that's called something else that I kind of have an inkling to want to get. But for now, we are just happy with our Orbi that we do have. All right, and the next plant that I want to show you guys is a pretty basic plant, but it's pretty special to me. So this is a Hartley Philodendron, very simple. Looks a little chaotic, honestly. I have it in this self-watering pot that I got from Amazon. It's just a terracotta pot with a glass covering that you stick it in and that you fill with water, and it keeps the plant hydrated and actually works quite well. I have 3 of these pots. All the plants that I have in them are very happy and thriving, so I do recommend. I'll try to link them down below if you guys are interested in these pots. As you can see, I should probably clean it. It's got some algae buildup happening, but whatever. So this Hartley Philodendron actually started with a 3-leaf cutting that I stole from the old job that I had. They had this beautiful Hartley Philodendron and I took a cutting of it. You shouldn't do that, I'm sure, but I did, and it started with 3 leaves. It took forever to start growing, and then it just took off one day. And then my friend gave me a ton of cuttings from her Hartley Philodendron that got mealybugs. She like treated it, cut off all the stuff, and then gave me a baggie full of cuttings. So what I did is I cut all of the leaves off of those cuttings and chopped them all up and made them into wet sticks. And then all of this right here is just from those wet sticks. So it is so bushy now, and there's like probably 10 to 15 growth points in this little pot. It probably could use a repot at this point because there's so many cuttings in here, but it's growing, as you can see, and happy. So I'm not going to touch it for a while. This sits on my plant shelf in my kitchen. I just recently moved it from like the 3rd shelf to the top shelf, sitting under like 2 bendy arm grow lights. I will also again try to show you guys that here, but it seems really happy, and overall I just love to look at it. I don't know, I'm just proud that I grew it from something so small. It feels really good when you grow a plant just from cuttings, especially when the cuttings don't have leaves and you grow all the leaves. If you guys are wondering how I grow my wet sticks, is I take these takeout containers that I get from like Chinese food or whatever, and I burn holes in the top of them with a wood burning tool in the lids. And then I put a bunch of moss in there. I just throw the wet sticks in the moss and I just stick them in a bright sunny spot, and I don't look at them. I just forget about them and I come back and then they're plants. So that is the safest way that I found to grow wet sticks. The actually only way I've grown wet sticks at this point, but I do know there's other techniques that you could definitely use. But for now, that's what works for me and what I can recommend to you because I've never tried anything else. So this is not the only Hartley Philodendron I have in my collection. I do have another one, which is also very beautiful. I think this is definitely one of my favorite plants in general, the Hartley Philodendron. I love a pothos, but something about these philodendron just warm me up. The other plain green Hartley Philodendron sits right next to this one, and it's really long and trailing. And like I said, it's very beautiful. I got it in a plant trade, but this one just is way more special because I grew it all by myself. So that is the second one that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. Don't have a whole lot to say about it because it is a very basic plant, but I think it needs a little bit more recognition than it gets for being a simple plain plant. So I do recommend, if you are looking for another easy care plant, this is it. And as you'll notice, a lot of the plants that I'm showing you today are very easy care because I have some finicky plants that take a lot of my attention. So I love those, but I like the ones that don't need as much attention and they still thrive and look beautiful because sometimes you just need that, right? So number 2 We're gonna go ahead and jump into number 3, which is my Silvery and Skinapsis, which is hanging right over there next to my south-facing window in my living room, which I don't want to take down because it's happy and a pain in the butt to take down. It's in a macrame hanger, and I got it from my local plant store, I don't even know when, probably 8 months ago, and it was not in the best shape. I probably paid a little too much for it, but I really wanted it for this one spot in my living room, which it's not even in anymore. But whenever I brought it home and moved it to the spot it's in now, it has taken off and does not stop growing for anything. It gets, like I said, south-facing light. Not really direct, well, it does get a lot of direct light, but the leaves have grown so much in size. They used to be small and now they're like quite large. I'll hopefully see in the B-roll. And it used to be touching the floor. I had to cut it because it grew so fast that it just like started touching the floor, and I have quite high ceilings. So I chopped off all the vines that were seriously too long to keep anymore, which I was very sad to do. I really loved how long it was. And it's finally now putting out new growth. So I'm very excited for those vines to start growing again and for it to get longer. And then the other cuttings that I took are rooting, and I do know some of them are getting roots, which is very exciting. And I plan to plant those cuttings back into the pot with it. So eventually I have a beautifully full pot of Silvery and Skinapsis. Highly recommend that plant. I was never really good with Skinapsis. I realized whenever I had some cuttings that kept dying, and I was very scared to try again. But I just bit the bullet and got a more established plant rather than cuttings, and it seems like it's been a good decision for me. After I brought the plant home, the one that I initially bought, which is the one that I showed you guys and I'm talking about right now, it was in a pot that was way too big for it, and they were just cuttings. Like, they were seriously just cuttings that were lightly rooted stuck in there. So I did unpot them and put them in something smaller with a new soil mix. And obviously it really enjoyed that because it has just blossomed and taken off. There are so many vines. It's bushy. It's going to be a beautiful plant. It already is a beautiful plant, but I can't even imagine when all these vines start growing again and I get the other ones potted back in there, like how stunning this plant's gonna be. I find myself just looking at it all the time. It's right next to my micans, which I also love. So just those two together, just, I love just sitting on my couch and looking at it because, like I said, the leaves have gotten so large since I brought it home. I just absolutely can't get enough of that plant. So if you're scared to try Skinapsis, totally understand. Recommend getting a more established plant than just a small cutting like I did when I started, because that did scare me away for quite some time. Now I have 3 Skinapsis. I have that one, I have my Pictus over here, which you may be able to see, and then I have the Exotica in my bedroom, which is also taking off. So get you a Skinapsis because they're so pretty with their silver. My Silvery and doesn't have like a ton of silver on it, which I'm totally fine with because I like the green, just like plain green leaves. Now, like, they obviously have some silver on them, but not anything to write home to, as you guys saw in the B-roll, hopefully. And then I am just going to move right along to plant number 4, which is going to be the only Hoya in this video. Thank you. I tried really hard on that. And that is my Hoya Lois Andrewsiana. Look how big these leaves are. Here's my hand for comparison. These leaves are absolutely huge. This is the original leaf that I got the cutting with. And then this is the one that it has been putting out, which I do believe is pretty close to being hardened off at this point. It's feeling pretty thick and succulent. And oh my gosh, it's so pretty. The leaves are splashy, as you can hopefully tell. And let me tell you, when they are juicy leaves, these boys are thick boys. Oh my gosh, I just don't even know what to say about it. It's honestly one of the coolest Hoyas in my collection, just purely based on the size, the veining, and the splashing all together. Like, what? How? I don't know what to even say about it. It's just honestly purely joyous to look at this plant every single morning when I wake up. Even now, I'm speechless when I look at it. I keep all my Hoya in terracotta, most of my Hoya in terracotta, which may eventually change in the future as my collection grows and I have less time to care for them individually. But for now, my Hoya seem to really love it. and I just have like a medium chunky soil mix for them. Oh, this is just a really good Hoya. If you haven't seen it before in person, try to find one because I think you'll fall in love. The grower that I got it from, she has a very beautiful collection. She's invited me to her home to look at it before, and her mother plant of this is gorgeous. She recently sold some of it in a plant purge that she did, and I'm so happy that other people in my community have jumped on it because people were really loving it. They were calling it a frisbee because it's absolutely huge, and I'm pretty sure the leaves that she was selling in that purge were even bigger than this one. So there is so much hope for this plant to just be gigantic, and I have no idea where I'm going to put it if that happens, but I don't care because it's stunning. It obviously has a growth point happening, and I'm hoping that little baby leaf turns into a new leaf as well. But if it doesn't, I'll be okay with that because, you know, sometimes bigger leaf Hoyas don't put out two leaves on the same node because they're larger and they take a lot more energy. But I try very hard to keep this plant nice and watered. I try to keep my Hoya all watered. I know people say that they like to dry out, which is true. They can handle drying out and they don't want to be over watered, but they like water, as all plants do. So I do recommend keeping your Hoya moist before they completely dry out and you like get the taco test, as people call it. Like, I don't ever recommend letting your Hoya get to that point because essentially you're just asking for trouble. I water my Hoya that sit under grow lights probably every 3 days, which is a lot, but they all sit on the same shelf. I just take a watering can, boom, 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 and it's done. And they are all growing. Like, every single Hoya I have right now is growing. So I think that is the way to go with Hoya. Don't let them dry out all the way, but definitely don't overwater them. But they are very simple to care for. So the Hoya Lois Andrewsiana, that is plant number 4. And let's go ahead and jump into plant number 5. I just realized there was another plant that I wanted to add to this list, but we'll just keep it at 5. The other plant that I was going to add was my Raphidophora tetrasperma, which I feel is kind of underrated these days. I know it had its moment a while back, but mine is just so bushy and beautiful. I just watered it, so I think that's why I forgot I wanted to talk about it, because I was going to move it over here, but the bottom of the pot was wet, so I decided not to. But honorable mention is my tetrasperma, Raphidophora tetrasperma. Good plant, especially if you get a bushy one. I got that at a local big box store, so highly recommend. But the actual 5th plant on this list of my favorite plants at the moment is my reverted strawberry shake, which I'm sure has a different name, like an actual name. It's probably like just some red Congo or something, but it was sold to me as a reverted strawberry shake. I got it as a 1-leaf cutting, which was this one, and I paid way too much for it, but like, I don't care. When it comes to plants, if I want something, I'm just gonna buy it. I don't know. It's what I like to spend my money on, so don't judge me. But I got it from a local person here in Indiana, and I knew that the variegation wasn't gonna come back, but I thought it would be a fun experiment anyways. And honestly, it took off pretty fast. Like I said, I got it as a 1-leaf cutting, and this wasn't that long ago. And now it's grown into this little plant, and I just love it. I think it's so cute. It lives in my bedroom. It doesn't get a whole lot of light now. It was living under my grow light for quite some time. And then one day I was walking through my bedroom, and I was like, oh my God, I have this basket, and I think that this philodendron will look great in it. And then I was like, oh my God, I think it'll look great in that spot. So that's what happened. That's what always happens. My plants find their homes based on me just like walking through my house one day and being like, oh my God, that plant would look great there. And then I put it there. So that's what happened with this one. I think come springtime, I am going to chop it and make a bushier plant to keep in this basket. But for now, I think it's absolutely perfect. It has given me this leaf recently. It's not getting as much light in my bedroom. My bedroom is probably the lowest light room in my entire house besides my bathroom. So I wasn't sure how it was going to do, but I have another philodendron living in there that like takes off. My philodendron bipennifolium lives in my bedroom as well, and it's constantly growing. So I wasn't too worried about this one growing. It is in quite a large pot for what it is. I can't take it out, but that's great for me because it means when I do cut it, I can just pot it back into that same pot, and I'm not going to have to repot this plant for quite some time, which is great news for me because I don't love repotting plants. I don't know if anybody like seriously enjoys repotting plants, but if you do, power to you. It's really just not for me all of the time. I do like it, but not all of the time. And as you can tell, all of the leaves are starting to adjust toward where the light is, which I really like as well because it does sit against a wall kind of. So I do want the leaves to be more out opposed to against the wall. So I'm happy about that overall. The leaf shape is weird. They're all a little bit different. There's no variegation like I said, but they do come in kind of this pinky orange color and then fade to this darker green color. And it's just aesthetically very pleasing in the position that it's in, and I think that's why I like it so much. It's a basic plant and it has no variegation to it or anything, but I like that. I don't really like variegated plants all that much. I did have a Syngonium albo, which I sold recently. I do kind of regret that. I kind of wish I kept it, but Syngonium just do not like me at all. So there's that. I would someday very much love to have a strawberry shake. It's one of my wish list plants for sure, but I don't foresee that ever happening because they're so expensive. And although I don't mind spending money on plants, I don't really want to spend that much money on plants. So I'm happy with my reverted strawberry shake. If you guys know what a reverted strawberry shake is called, leave a comment down below because I really have been trying to figure out what the name of this actually is now that it's definitely not a strawberry shake anymore. And it kind of feels wrong to keep calling it a reverted strawberry shake. So, and I would never like sell it to somebody as that necessarily, unless that technically is the term for it. But overall, very excited to see what this plant does for me and to give it a chop and repot and make it big and bushy. I love philodendron. I think that they're great, easy plants. So if you can get your hands on a strawberry shake, I say do it because they're kind of weird and cool and cute. But if you can't and you can find a reverted strawberry shake, I think they're equally as cool. I mean, look at it. I love it. But that is all I really have to say about my plants. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below on what your favorite plant is at the moment. I'd love to know so I can maybe add it to my collection. And if you like this video, subscribe for more random content. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!